I'm going to share with you an exciting discovery. Okay, it's to do with us traveling through time. So just imagine that we're like in a vehicle, like in a car, okay? And you're sitting side by side. We're sitting side by side. We're passing through some territory, and I'm going, oh, look at this, oh, look at that. And I'm verbalizing. I'm going, oh. But instead of actually physical traveling, we're actually traveling through concepts. Okay, I'm pointing out a few concepts, and then you go, oh, yeah, yeah. And you might construct the same concepts, or you might associate them to concepts you've already got. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so, but I'm going to represent it with a diagram here just to kind of like help us along, all right? This is time, okay? And we're traveling along this journey, okay? Now, what I'm going to postulate is that there's an aspect of us that is it's like a moment in time, and we're traveling through it. And this is maybe only microseconds. So we're like a little microsecond movement. Okay, the moment. Okay, and we're happening to be at the same moment. So we're not at the beginning anymore, and we're not at the end. We're traveling at this moment at some, what is it, 1:28, 1.5 minutes in. And there's this kind of like processing as you're doing and I'm doing concurrently. That's kind of like you've got to kind of accept that, I guess. That's my initial position. Now, there's an aspect of that which is pre conscious, and there's an aspect of it which is post conscious. Okay, and the consciousness, and this is conscious, or in fact reflexive. Okay, so we've got pre and a post. Now that means that at some point or other, something is drawn attention to you. Okay, so there's something that's happening before you understand, before you know what a word is. It's like, for example, we're going around, in the car, and then we go over a little bump, and we say, oh, and we see something. Okay, now that thing that we've just seen is something that it isn't happening to us immediately. There's some part of our processing, the light goes into our head and kind of jiggles around, and at some point where they go, it's a spire to a church. Okay, so we have to know what a spire is and so on and so forth. And there's pre-conscious processing. Same with the words that I'm using, is that there's stuff going on before you even vaguely understand what on earth is being talked about. And post-conscious is the result, i.e., the verbalization of there's a spire. Okay, so there's something happening on the pre and the post in the living moment as we're traveling along. Okay, are we good with that? We're good with that. Now here's the trick. When somebody is listening, okay, in a way, and if you're following this, it's like you're not listening this way, but some people, they tend to listen outside, out outside understanding. Okay, now that means that a word's finished. They've finished their post productive, post conscious like thing. Okay, like a word, and then they're listening to the word and then trying to make sense of the word. Now the word is a thing which is understood in the pre-conscious process of that person. So they also have your pre and post. Okay, so they're going through time, but they're waiting after, all right, after the product has been produced. So effectively, it is a word. So this thing creates a word. Okay, in relation to this person, it's like a word or another sentence. Okay, and they're always trying to process it in terms of that. And if you're listening in this kind of way, this is outside or after the fact, okay, it means you get things like logic. Logic, because you're listening to words and then you're looking at the constructs of the words, and therefore you're being able to deduce things based on an outside understanding. And the outside understanding is because you're listening to it after it's being said. Now, that's just normal, okay? So this is the way that most people think is going on. So you've got the idea of somebody talking and then somebody listening. There's some kind of like transmitter sending some information to another person, and it's in these packages. Okay? It's obvious, yeah? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So, what we're doing is we're appreciating that there's another way of thinking about it. It's called organic theory, and it's to do with the fact that this is an indivisible moment that we are experiencing. Ooh. At the same time that I'm verbalizing. Now, you have your moment, and it's got a pre-conscious thing, and it's got a post. Okay. As I am verbalizing. Now, the trick is, where's your attention? Now, your attention, how many colors do I have here? Right. Your attention, while I'm doing this, is either here, and that's outside, or you're within the moment that I'm constructing the wording. And so it's not words, it's wording. And you're following the wording. Okay? And you're either paying attention to this bit, the kind of formation, and that means that is like wording, and you're slightly behind, so you're focusing more like there, or you're here. And that means you're trying to get more of my intention or feeling or whatever it is that's going on in your mind, which is similar to whatever is going on in my mind before I even say anything. Okay, in the process that I'm saying it, you're kind of getting what I'm saying, but the way you're getting it is not by listening to the words, you're getting it by trying to understand what's he trying to say. And that's what I do with kids. Yeah. Okay, so I know that this happens because that's kind of like the theory I had when I was actually doing stuff with adolescents. In fact, way back in university when I was doing social anthropology, many years ago, this idea of conveying information, it was just not my experience. All right, I grew up in a family where this was happening a lot. All right, and there was a big misunderstanding about outsider understanding and insider understanding, and this is insider understanding. Okay, where we're actually trying to get to appreciation of the wording and the intention. And here's the extra little bit, bonus, fantastic, superb bit. Oh, I've just noticed that light is reflecting badly on that image. Well, such is life. Here. This bit, this one here, is where we can ground our sense of we. Okay, this kind of settling back. So when everybody else is talking, we're settling back into why are they coming up with this? How are they coming up with this? How? Why? You're getting back into their intention, their being. Going back into this direction is the Buddha's path. Okay? Any kind of meditation, any kind of subjective experience, any kind of just meditating to try to just slow down so you can actually just settle, so you're not interested in anything to do with a word, anything outside. You're listening, being sensitive to whatever your mind's coming up with and going, yeah, whatever that is, I'm not really that concerned. And you're less interested in the post and you're interested in the pre, the sense that comes to you. The senses of hearing, the sound, what it is, or the sensations of your body, or the feelings, and so on and so forth, and the rising and falling of feelings that might result from a post thought. Okay, so you get these little loops. And what you're doing is you're trying to cut down that loop so that the post, you're not really trying to produce anything. You're not trying to go anywhere. You're not trying to search for anything. You're not trying to, there's no projection, and you calm it down so that your body's not like, oh, I better get up to have some food, or your feelings are like, oh, I better do something today, or anxieties or fears, I've got to, something's happened, or no, you forget about all that. There's no emotional state. You really calm that down, and then you're like conscious. Are you like really awake and alive, or are you a little bit kind of like shrunken, a bit depressed, a bit like underconfident? And that you balance out, so you're just like kind of clean. Your consciousness is just kind of clean, and it's very calm. Okay, and that means that you've kind of settled into the this moving moment. You're still moving in time, but it's this pre-stage. It's the bit before you come up with anything. Okay. Now notice the relativity involved in this. Okay, relative to this way of thinking, there's a person in the past relative to this person. or relative to this person, person in the future, or this. We are all present. This is phenomenal, don't you think? Okay, so that's where we have the weakness. Okay, because if we keep on thinking that there are people outside, ahead of us, or in the past, we end up having this kind of dislocation. Okay, dislocation of our existence. Whereas if we appreciate that we're actually living at the same moment, even through this medium, and if we can do it through this medium, we have a very high chance of we manifesting globally. Okay, if we can transform our ability to appreciate how we are communicating, communing. Okay, this is like communing. Okay, it's not just about just being we and it's just, oh, don't we feel really we? Yeah, kind of we can do that, but we can also do it in the process of wording. Okay, in order to draw attention to certain things that are processing as as it's happening. So I just wanted to share that with you because it's quite beautiful. Okay, it's quite beautiful. We're not trying to produce words for other people to then follow. Okay, and we're not following words ourselves that have been produced by other people. Okay, in the past. Okay, so all we're doing is we're really coming together. All right, presently with the people that we know and the people that we're engaging in order to get stuff done. Okay, so if we do this well, okay, we get some more information, let's call it, but it's more like our connection so that we can just act. So we're acting in harmony when we're listening in this kind of way, okay, and therefore we act in harmony. Okay, so that's the trick. Okay, so it's not like, oh, controlling other people in linearity. It is simultaneous. And in fact, okay, I've got this last little bit because it's just come to my mind. I remember there's a thing, the early theoreticians that were talking about language, they talked about syntagmatic chains. Okay, so syntagmatic chains, which is a linear sequence. And then we have these kind of connectors between these words that are like, prepositions and so on and so forth, that we put in between these kind of concepts, try and kind of like tie it together, kind of like grammatical words like on and of and so on and so forth, in order to help us. But also, it also involves the structure of, for example, the cat, a noun, the subject, sat, a verb, on the mat, an object. Okay, so we have this, subject, verb, object, order, or in other languages, you might have the verb, then subject, and then object. Okay, quite a lot of Latin languages have that. Okay, but that's the syntagmatic sequence of our linguistic and script. Okay, whereas we're interested in the formation, the becoming of the wording, becoming of the person, the becoming of a thought, of a feeling, an arising, and the becoming of action. Okay, and so that is the paradigmatic, okay, relationship. So for example, the cat sat on the mat, and another word that you could replace for the cat is the dog. The dog sat on the mat. So the cat and the dog are paradigmatic because they're in the same paradigm. Okay, or you could say the cat peed on the mat. Okay, bad cat. And so therefore you have sitting and peeing. Oh, they're both verbs, paradigmatically similar. So similarly, to think about us consciously as a language pattern, okay, if we're not doing this sending signals to other people, okay, or listening to other people's signals in the past, but if we're actually at the same moment in the same paradigmatic temporal reference, this is a paradigm shift. I just got that at the end of it 2 minutes ago. Is that cool? Is that cool? It's a paradigm shift. This is literally your thinking of this and listening to this, okay, is a paradigm shift in how we communicate through this medium. We have an economic for it. We have an economic for it. If you think this is good, then you share it forwards with somebody you think might actually like it, okay? And they'll go, oh, this is interesting. And they'll share it forwards. Might add some money as they share it. Okay, so the money's going forwards in time. A bit like this, okay? And we start having like a number, like £10, okay? And that number indicates something to do with our paradigmatic shift socially. Holy. I love it. I love it. I love it. Emergent thinking comes out of this. Not really out of that. Anything come up for you? Because if you do, I'd love to hear it. And in fact, if you share it forward to other people might be able to come up with what follows this. What's if this is true, what's the next obvious step? And I'm not talking about linearly. I'm saying if they're doing this at the time, and I'm listening to them, and you say something and suggest something that we do together, okay, 100 of us, or just 10 of us, actually, or 1,000 of us, or 1,000,000 of us, okay, think about that, okay. It'd be really cool if I found some people that are really into this, because I think that if we get 10 people, even 10 people, maybe more, 100, if we get probably up to 100 people listening in this way, paradigm, well, there'll be a critical mass that will mean something starts to happen in that group, where one of the 100 come up with something that is like, perfect. Okay, and so we will just start another technique, another thing that gets us to be able to enable action socially that has an effect beyond the people listening. Okay, beyond the people listening. That is everybody in the past, everybody in the future, whoever watches this, beyond them. Woof, wow. Okay, so look, it's all very exciting. As you can tell, I'm a little bit excited. Did you enjoy this? Value? Sure. Oh, okay. I'm going to do another video for this other stuff. It's quite interesting. Anyway, that was pretty cool. Thanks very much for taking part in a paradigm shift.